Sometimes there is a dark side to having some degree of swaying influence and opinion on the internet. And today I do want to talk about a very interesting, I don't really want to use the word PsyOp, but it just got the feelings of it. It's not that, it's that there are sometimes projects that come up and one person discovers it and does a video, and they're so large of a channel that it just causes everybody to sit down and go, wow, this is the greatest thing in the world. And sometimes those just get blown out of proportion. Sometimes for the better, more often than not for the worse. We're going to talk about one of those today. Welcome back to Switch2Linux. If you like this type of content, please feel free to subscribe to the channel, leave us a like and a comment down below. And this is a fun one that I wanted to do because I did a video 6 months ago when a brand new distribution was released. I thought it was kind of neat, and I looked at it and I gave it some pros, I gave it some cons, and I rose a couple of very, very valid questions. And then it got about 5,000-6,000 views and then kind of leveled off until last week or 2 weeks ago. A big YouTuber, I think Mental Outlaw, was the first to do the video on this, and he did a video on the distribution after they released the version 1.3, and then everybody in the world started doing videos on it, and I even had normies texting me, have you heard about this great new Linux distro to replace Windows? At that point in time, I said, enough. We must talk about it. So let's go ahead and chat about this one. This will be a fun one, but we want to start with a preface about one of these situations that happened about 18 or so months ago. So this was the Thorium browser. Of course, big YouTuber Chris Titus Tech, who does have a lot of excellent content, he discovers this Thorium browser on the internet in a little obscure corner, looks at it and says, wow, this thing's really fast. And then did a video about how great it was and how big his channel is. Everybody and their brother rushed for the Thorium browser, and everyone's like, this is amazing. And it turned out there was a lot of security stuff that was disabled. There were a lot of serious problems, and even some not safe for work stuff embedded in the browser if you knew where to look. Now, the reason this happened is because it was literally a passion project for a guy that happened to have it up on GitHub, because if I remember correctly, you had to pay to not have your stuff public. I don't know. I don't use GitHub, but I remember that being some situation. And so this now people start looking at it and go, I don't know. So I did my video first saying, Thorium browser, is it the best browser? And I went through and raised a few of these fun questions and brought these up. And then it turns out that there were a lot of issues. And so the Thorium developer ultimately responds. I think we did a clip on our Thursday show. We talked about that, and really the rapid growing success was about as beneficial to his mental health as winning the lottery is for the average lottery recipient. And it basically caused a lot of problems in his life, in all honesty, because he didn't, it was just a fun passion project that he had as a joke with his friends. And then all of a sudden, everybody in the world starts downloading it. And indeed, I came out with another video saying, yes, I was indeed justified in my concerns, as a lot of the not safe for work stuff embedded in the browser was thrown out. And this is one of those challenges that sometimes happens when a big influencer YouTuber looks at something and just hands it a giant endorsement. It is a downside, and I'm not saying it should stop. I'm not saying Chris did something wrong there, but sometimes we have to look a little bit closer, because what happened is I did a video on AnduinOS 6 months ago. This is in November, and I called it a Windows clone in Chinese style. Here's actually the video. And so what I did on this particular video is I looked at it because it's like, hey, this is a great new distribution for people switching over from Windows. And I call it in Chinese style because it had a very era of cheapness to it. You know what I'm talking about? You buy a Chinese device and it just has a degree of cheapness. They don't work to try and make sure everything is as robust and safe and secure. They just get it far enough to get it to work. This is reminiscent of what's what's going on with Deepin, as I discussed in the OpenSUSE Deepin video, where OpenSUSE is like, yeah, you can't be on our system right now, citing serious security concerns. It's like the Deepin guys were just trying to get stuff to work. They weren't trying to get it to work right. And that was a fundamental problem and a challenge. And so with this, what I see as a person, now we have to understand, this is a project. It was a passion project from a single developer in his spare time because he has a full-time job. And so he does this and he pushed out. But the problem that I addressed in this video, and I just watched this video again to make sure something's not on it, it would appear the only major change is that now he has the GNOME software store installed. And everything else seems to be about the same. And probably a few updated code and things like that, because, 6 months Ubuntu has released a new release in that time. So we'll see something like that. But what I commented on is looked at the claims on the website and indicated that the distribution itself did not match up with the claims on the website, hence in Chinese style. You see, the website was saying this is a brand new, amazing, easy to use distribution, user friendly. And what do? You click on the software, and I showed this in there. You clicked on the software and it would literally take you to a web page with commands to copy and paste into the terminal to install stuff. The latest version of this, DistroTube, just looked at the 1.3, and despite their website currently says everything is containerized, he showed that Firefox is not containerized. And being as it's a GNOME software store, I don't know if is that store set up to only install Flatpaks, or is that store set up to also install from the Ubuntu code? I didn't download 1.3. You can criticize me for that if you want, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to address what I've seen, because this video leveled out around 6,000 views, and then as soon as Mental Outlaw, DistroTube, and then a smattering of other people all did this. Of course, Mental Outlaws, DistroTubes, and then we got this one 2 days ago. We got this one 12 days ago. We got this one 11 days ago. This one's from 5 months ago. This is an AI generated one 10 days ago. So everybody's jumping on the AnduinOS bandwagon. And so because of this, my video has been thrown back into the algorithm and the views keep going up. And I am thankful for that. But I'm seeing people watching the video saying like, I think you're using an old version. Guys, I released this video 6 months ago. See, down on YouTube, there is a thing down here that tells you when it was released. You'll notice that this is not released 5 days ago. I didn't release this video right now because everybody else is. Once again, Switch to Linux is ahead of the curve. I am right more often than I'm wrong. Sometimes it just takes time to catch up with me. I literally, like the It's Foss news article about Ubuntu's going to remove some apt applications has been taken down because they did. But looking at the recent comments, and I saw this, now I put a note in there today saying, note to new viewers, this is 6 months old. And I did say, knowing a big YouTuber just covered this, I wasn't like hiding that it was Mental Outlaw. It was literally, I couldn't remember who was it that did it. And so I just said a big YouTuber. Turns out two, Mental Outlaw and DistroTube, both big YouTubers in the Linux sphere, both covered it. What sadly, neither one of them looked into the history. They both simply said a Microsoft employee. And when I say Microsoft employee, what do you think? Oh, he's living in Redmond. He's up a US guy. He's up there in Microsoft. No, guys. This is a Chinese national who happens to work for Microsoft. Now, I did not say anywhere in this video, it is spyware because it's China's. Or I didn't say, it's Chinese, therefore China bad. But I did raise a couple of questions about the quality of the distribution with the claims it made compared to the quality. So I would encourage you to watch this with fresh eyes, leaving aside what you know from your favorite Linux YouTubers. But I get, it's not a Chinese OS. It's made by a Microsoft employee. 1.3 is out with a software store. It's not a Chinese OS. That is what I'm going to go ahead and debunk. Now, before you get there, of course, are you showing the latest version? This may not be the latest version. Well, 6 months ago, it was the latest version, actually. Okay, here's Zorin OS, of course. I like that. AnduinOS, yeah, that is an ideal Windows. I would definitely use that. Mental Outlaw did a video on it. Looks nice. I believe when he asks you which version you prefer in English, I believe the language you first presented during the boot up. No, when I first downloaded it, you chose the language from the download options. Very much like Pop OS, you can choose the AMD or the NVIDIA version. And if you grab the wrong one, it won't boot. So that's the thing. This guy says revisit this again. 1.2 is out. Of course, 1.3 is out as of the time I'm doing this video. And so we get a lot of those types of comments. So the question is, and what I see over and over is, this isn't Chinese. It's made by a Microsoft employee. I think he said, did he say employer? Yeah, Microsoft employer, Microsoft employee. And so I want to tell you that this is the developer behind it. And this is an interesting one. This is actually his webpage at his company. And what he does down here is he says, I found someone impersonating my identity. It's not me. These are the official links down below. So I looked at the LinkedIn page. Of course, I don't use LinkedIn, so I had somebody send me a copy of his LinkedIn page. See here, software engineer level 2 at Microsoft. And you can see his location there is in China. All right. Here's, of course, his experience. He basically went right from college into Microsoft. So he is a young engineer at Microsoft, but he is certainly a gifted. He is a talented person, but he is from China. All right. Looking at other things, of course, this is the Microsoft location he works at, Suzhou. And I know this because if you scroll down, this is actually his blog, which he wrote. He actually says down here that he purchased a house in Suzhou. I hope that's pronounced right, Suzhou, with a loan. He is a Chinese-born, Chinese-raised. He went to a Chinese university, and he lives in China. Okay, so stop telling me it's not Chinese distro. It's made by a Microsoft employee. He ain't in Redmond. Yes, it's a Microsoft employee. It's a Microsoft employee who lives and works in China. Of course, down here, he talked about abandoning Windows completely, switching to his AnduinOS. I thought other fun things were interesting over here. Here's talking about Microsoft. He did end up quitting a job. Where was that at? I think it's up here. He interned for a company called Incheers, let go after 3 months over disagreements. He wanted to use more open source software. They wanted to go proprietary route. So there is fine. Okay. He talks here about Aerosoft's infrastructure. Aerosoft is his own particular company. This is one of the things that I questioned because when you looked at the original page, you can see that down at the very, very bottom, 2004, Aerosoft. So I was like, who are they? And I went in and they were a Chinese company. Of course, now they scrubbed all that stuff off. Now it's just his name instead of tying it back to his company. He's removed a lot of those other references. And now, of course, he's asking for money that everybody's looking at it. And the thing has reached number 26 over on Distro Watch. So there is that. That's certainly something that I wanted to think about there. But also going up, look at this. In 2017, he hacked one of the school's servers, obtaining all of its data. Experience made me realize that my knowledge could lead to either success or a crime. Now, apparently, he says, I decided to work as a hacker while reporting my findings to the academic office. So he's basically functioning as a gray hat hacker effectively in this role. Of course, black hat hacks to do mischief, white hat hacks only on sheer permission to test vulnerabilities, gray hat hacks without permission, but then reports the stuff before releasing it to the wild. So I have a degree of sense that his heart is in the right place. Do I think that AnduinOS is going to be a piece of Chinese spyware? No, I don't think that. I didn't say that. But I do have questions about a guy who's a very young person. He's working for Microsoft. And the reason I first said, yeah, he's probably Chinese is in his original blog post on the Anduin website, which have all been scrubbed, by the way, and they're not even archived in archive.org. Then those ones there, let me verify if they are. If you went over to is it source code install? Now there was a blog post over here somewhere that he had went in and he was saying he had concerns about the USA and China scuffle when was his job really secure. He was really concerned that Microsoft would be forced to fire everybody in the Chinese locations. I don't really see that happening, but that's really what he said. If you go over here, they have the news tab on the news site. And this one here, of course, here's his first blog post here. Very English all the way. This one is the story and the letter. And this is really the blog post. He started noticing this. Of course, this was a few days ago. This is kind of after Mental Outlaw did his video causing it. And what he had mentioned down here, I got to find the spot where he was concerned about the Chinese stuff. I didn't highlight it. There you go. Amid the unpredictable global dynamics, I often feel I could lose my job at any time due to the constant changing U.S.-China relations. That's what led me initially to think that he was probably a Chinese resident. Of course, here's his YouTube channel. It is Chinese. Here is his official GitHub page. It lists him as being in China. And I cannot go without this one because this is gold. Encouraged by a teacher, I started a business with classmates during the golden age of internet entrepreneurship, founding a company called Ubisoft. He founded Ubisoft? Very interesting. Ubisoft. I find this little academic article here. It's a case study in a what appear to be some economics journal. Of course, I just have the abstract. I'm not paying for the journal. In 2015, 2015, interesting. In 2015, a Shanghai businessman contacted the director of Ubisoft, an American software company, to request becoming the company's partner in China. Over the next 2 years, they proceeded to develop their partnership and grow Ubisoft's business in China. Shanghai businessman became Ubisoft's partner and master reseller in China. 2018, the businessman proposed moving the company research developed to China. Ubisoft scheduled for an August 18 board meeting to discuss the issue, which they do. And I don't know the end of that. This article is written in 2019, but it would appear that this guy just kind of randomly, hey, I can help you expand in China. And sure, okay. I'm guessing that's the story behind this. So my point in all of this is that there are a lot of weird shadiness here. And please stop telling me this is not a Chinese guy, especially on his Twitter from February of this year. I imagine I commented on a GitHub issue about Intel NPU driver and asked an American how can I run a model with NPU, and ultimately he was sent to jail for answering my question. Shall I say sorry to him? I'm literally a Chinese researcher. Okay, so I have all these people watching my video because a few different larger Linux YouTubers jumped out and reviewed the distribution without looking at who's behind it, looking at what's going on in the background, and praising it as, wow, this is amazing. When if you look at the distribution, when I looked at it, it was hot garbage. I'm not saying that because it was Chinese. I'm just saying that because it was just hot garbage. It's just Ubuntu with a theme on it to make just the panel look like Windows 11. We have a weather icon over here. We have a dock in the middle, and we have a taskbar on the right side. And everything else is just basically Ubuntu without a software manager, without containerization. He advertised at that time automatic upgrades, although I didn't find cron jobs, software managers, or anything that would suggest automatic upgrades are actually being done. I found none of that. Okay. So this raised some serious concerns with me. And the challenge I have is that when we go out and we push a brand new single developer, and we're not talking about the origins, we're not talking about the histories, and we're not going back and looking, because if you go back on Wayback Machine, why did he change that Chinese company name to just his name? Did nobody search his name and see he actually is a Chinese national, rather than going down to my video because somebody else said this is a great thing by a Microsoft employee, and you immediately think, oh, Redmond, Washington, American guy, maybe he's just some guy with a Chinese name that immigrated over here to work for Microsoft. That's not the case. Now, yes, he's a legitimate Microsoft employee. I'm not saying the distribution is here for any form of peril. I don't see anything going on that would lead me to believe he's spying on it or doing anything bad. The source code is all available on GitHub. It can and should be audited. All right. The point is, a couple of people come out saying, this is the latest distribution. Oh, everybody should switch to this. It's not a good distribution. Now, maybe it's had a tremendous amount of benefits, but as far as I can see, even now, I didn't see any major changes from what Mental Outlaw or DistroTube did, other than adding the GNOME Software Center and updated the Ubuntu code. When I looked at it, it's just Ubuntu with a skinned GNOME. That's not anything that would lead somebody to change. I mean, if you're looking for something that looks like Windows, do AnduinOS. Mikulu Linux is still doing Windows-like clones. At least they did a decent job of cloning everything, not just the panel. And I'm not saying you should never use this distro. I'm not saying never use this. I'm saying the ultimate point here that I wanted to mention is that as we are looking at things, we have to be cautious of promoting heavily a single distro, telling everybody to use it. And the bigger we are in the YouTube community, the more dangerous it becomes to push out something like a Thorium browser, which was just a passion project, or Anduin, which is just a passion project. He never expected that a couple of big YouTubers would get it and run with it, and now everybody in the world will be talking about it. We didn't expect it to be number 26 on DistroWatch, despite the fact that it doesn't even have a software installer. The claims on the website do not in any way, shape, or form match up with the claims over on the distribution itself. And so what happens is, if we throw one up, as of right now, I'm recording this, it's actually 42 on DistroWatch. I realized I didn't look at the DistroWatch, but it's still at 42. Top 100 on DistroWatch, though, is not too bad. So the point is, Anduin is not so horrible you should never use it. We just don't have an auditable trail. It's done by a very young engineer who is a Chinese national that is described apparently as a gray hat hacker, meaning he will hack you just to tell you about it, which is in American law completely illegal, by the way. I don't know how it is in Chinese law. He is a legitimate Microsoft employee, but he's not in Redmond. He is a legitimate Microsoft employee in the province in China that he resides in. Best I can tell, he's never left China. I didn't see any evidence of anywhere. There's a video on his YouTube channel about traveling to one of the conferences, but it was a conference in Shanghai. And so there's nothing in anything that he's doing that suggests that this is just a single really good developer. It's just a small distribution with a very slightly modified GNOME to make it kind of look like Windows 11. That's not the reason to send somebody to it. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of issues with it. I would absolutely, if you're looking at switching off of Windows, you should be looking at Linux Mint, MX Linux, AnduinOS, Linux Lite's good. Even Ubuntu is way better than this. There are a number of distributions you could try out. And I would caution people against just immediately jumping on the bandwagon because somebody did it, especially if there's no background on the person who did it. Because one of the things that's interesting to me is how much his website changed to strip off some of the links back to the Chinese company and the Chinese thing. I cover that in very fine detail in my first original video. Yet I have people coming to my video and criticizing it, seemingly having not watched it, because somebody else did a video about it saying it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And when I have my friends texting me who do not generally follow what's going on to the Linux world, sending me videos on Linux distributions that I reviewed 6 months ago and said, probably steer clear from this one. It's about time to do a video. So there's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts to all this down below. Have you actually looked at the distro? Or if you were one of the ones that left a weird comment on my other video, did you actually watch it to see the questions and concerns that I have? And yes, I have no doubt 1.3 is better. He is gaining traction. The distro is getting bigger. It is getting better, apparently. He has a software installer. That is a step up. But his website, as of right now, let me go back and show it back on his website again. Oh, hold on. I gotta go back. He doesn't have a way to go back to his main site once you click on the news button. So if you go back down here, containerize. This is the one, DistroTube. I encourage you to find DistroTube's video on this. Graphical applications are installed via Flatpak and keep themselves separate from the base system since they allow for fine-grained control over their permissions. DistroTube showed that Firefox is not installed containerized. Okay. He did take off from the original, said regular updates. Vulnerabilities are fixed with automated security updates. And I showed there's nothing in the system that did automatic updates. You would do that through like the GNOME Software Center, which wasn't installed. You'd do that through a cron job, which no cron jobs were installed. There was no system setting I found that automatically updated anything in the background. Maybe it was there and I didn't know, but that's the thing. So he replaced this point, which was apparently false, with this point, which is apparently false. I need to rest my case at this point in time. I don't want to keep talking about it. But let me know your thoughts about all this in the comments down below.